That's how we normally start.
This is our pre-chat, our
Yeah.
pre-chat ritual.
Well, I was listening to a lot of Taylor Swift this morning, so like I was pretty much just
We're
doing this
just
on the
doing this.
desk all morning.
I'll be honest, I'm not a big Swiftie. Like,
Okay, well, I gotta go, guys.
and I'm jamming alone. I don't know. It's
I'm
just
back.
like, I guess before we get in, that can be our pre-chat. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Medicare Cafe. My name is Benjamin. I'm joined with,
Clayton Clemens.
and we are not your usual hosts, in case you
Right.
can't tell. So,
Yes, we are not Olivia and Carrie. However, Ben and Clayton, pretty good B team. Pretty solid.
dang, we're B team.
We're B team. I would say, back in my basketball days as a junior high basketball athlete, I was what they called a B team baller. I was good at basketball, but I wasn't good enough to be on the A team.
Yeah.
It was the varsity team,
Yeah.
but it was the B team. So like we're really good.
Yeah.
We're just, not Olivia and Carrie.
I feel that. Yeah. My B team just stood for bench, and so I never. So different
See,
experiences.
that's what I always joke about was I was good enough to be like when we had tournaments and needed more people on the A team,
I was there.
was really good at sitting at the end of the bench just in case they needed me.
Go team.
Or if we were winning by a lot, then I'd get to play so everyone else could rest.
Oh. My favorite without a doubt has to be I used to play football as like a wide receiver cornerback because like Linky boy.
Yeah,
So I could just like catch everything
Yeah.
over anybody. And then I destroyed my knee. Like I broke my growth plate
Don't do
in my
that.
knee. Yeah. Don't recommend if you are playing full contact sports, avoid knees at all costs.
Also, it looks on camera like I'm taller than Ben. I am not at all. Ben is much taller than me.
I have a
Short torso.
short torso.
I have long torso.
Yes, yeah. All of my height is in my legs. I am 6'3" and 6 feet of that is legs. So,
yes.
but no, I destroyed my knee and I ended up just being the water boy
There you go.
the rest of the time. And so ever since that day, I just got into video games and nerdy card games, and that's been my life ever since.
I love it.
But this is the pre-chat. Obviously, we are a touch behind the 10 o'clock hour, but we wanted to give you guys the opportunity to come through and join us here this morning. We tried to start at the top of the hour, and we will get started here soon. We got some really fun stuff to go over. To Corp or not to Corp is the question, whether it is nobler to be a corporation than an individual.
You know much more about Shakespeare than I
I was a theater kid because I busted my knee. It checks out.
Brad roasted you pretty good. He said you played end and guard, end of the bench and guard in the water bottle.
Exactly.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Brad, you must be familiar with the terms. He'll appreciate a little bit of banter back and forth, I'm sure. Well, good morning, everybody. Hopefully you guys are enjoying your Tuesday morning. Let's see. In the spill of 3 minutes, we've gone over Taylor Swift, basketball, and nerdy things.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're just moving right along.
That's what
we're here for, guys.
you really can't really get do much better than that. Truth of the nature. I guess we'll go ahead and kind of jump into it. Again, we were kind of starting a little bit. I had to fix a couple of aspects on the OBS, or the platform that we used to stream this here this morning, just to make sure we could come live to you guys this morning. So we are going over
To Corp or not to Corp.
to carp or not to carp.
Or to crop or not to crop.
Yes,
My dyslexia was hurting this morning.
we all bounced back so many times, and I was like, carp is a really invasive fish. We shouldn't probably talk about that. And they're like, no, try again.
Farmers.
Yeah, there you go. And then it's just farmers. So we went back and forth. But yeah, the main goal of today's kind of conversation is just to have those talks about what it looks like to kind of form a corporation. A lot of agents, I mean, as we've seen kind of through and through, and you might have a little bit better of an insight on this coming from a previous background here at SMS. A lot of agents start off at an individual because I think it's kind of what they're used to. So, I mean, I'll kind of let you speak on that a little.
So, yeah, today really focusing on if you're setting up your contracts as an individual or corporation. Some of you might already be set in your path, but this is kind of just a general outline. So a lot of agents do start off with the individual contracting, mainly because it's the kind of lower startup cost, right? They're not having to also get a corporation signed up. They don't need to kind of flip back and say, okay, well, I need to get my agency license. I need to set up a corporation. I probably need to get E&O on both my agency and myself. There's a lot of extra steps that go around setting up a corporation, which when you're first getting into the game, you might be like, let me get a few commission checks to make sure this is a thing before we get going too much. But basically, as you guys know, if you got individual contracts, those commissions are being paid to and taxed to your Social Security number. So it could make your taxes a little bit more difficult, as far as getting everything settled, getting everything taken away. But as far as like a contracting standpoint goes, it doesn't change a ton if you do individual corporations from as far as like just being able to offer the product. Yeah. So why not just start off with an individual? So let's talk about why you could set up as a corporation to be like, oh, that's why.
Yeah, there's definitely some changes that you see between the difference. But a lot of it honestly ends up coming from a different mindset. It is a similar path and a similar outcome, but a different mindset going behind kind of like why should one even consider it. So the main difference obviously here is the commissions are being paid to a tax ID number that you have set up and tied to your corporation. We traditionally see corporations set up either like an S Corp or an LLC. Those are probably the two most common that I've seen personally. I was actually just visiting with an agency here in the States, going through and kind of what that's going to look like. And they already have an LLC, but a lot of their contracts were still set up as an individual. So we'll kind of get into some of the reasons why maybe I might make a trip to you soon to kind of have some conversations about that. But again, the main differences here that you're going to see is you have a corporation. The commissions are being paid to that tax ID, so it's not tied directly to your Social Security number and you as an individual. I kind of outlined here. It separates it from your Social Security Social Security number, yes, not network. And it does make taxes look a little different because traditionally what you see if you are underneath your corporation, you get then paid by the agency and kind of have that in place. I know you've been on a couple of trips as well, and kind of with your experience, what have you seen? Kind of maybe what's one of those key things that either leads or pushes someone to switch to corporation instead of doing individual, or maybe what are some of those aspects you see?
So I really think it's the bottom 2 points there: growth and starting with the end in mind. So talking about the growth aspect of it is a lot of times when people are ready to make that shift back, they're looking at, okay, I've been set up as an individual, but I really want to start growing my agency. I've hit like maybe a couple hundred clients, 200-300 clients, and saying like, okay, this is really a good thing. Like, how can I make this better? Yeah. So looking at growth opportunities as far as setting up downline agents is a big one. Is when agents want to start hiring downlines, first step, let's go ahead and start incorporating. Yeah. Because it's going to make it easier then to get taxes paid out again, to be able to do your payroll, do everything like that through your entity, versus you being Brad, since I see Brad's name here, and Brad having to pay these people and Brad getting taxed on everything. It's going to hurt Brad more than it would the entity. Yeah. So that is kind of step one: is I'm ready to grow my business. What do I need to do? And the other is when people are starting with the end in mind, like if you've got this successful agency built, or you've got plans and you have maybe like another line of insurance, and you're wanting to get into Medicare, and you're like, look, I've got the clientele here. Right. I can easily move my P&C clients who are agent in to working with me for Medicare. Yeah. So those folks already say like, okay, I know what the goal is here. I want to continue to grow this agency. How do I do it? Starting off with a corporation. Yeah. But the flip side of that would be you starting with the end in mind, being like, okay, I would like to retire one day. I would like to be able to sell all of my hard work and be able to do that. It's made a lot easier by making corporate contracts your setup.
Interesting. So, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Do carriers even allow you to bring in downline agents if you're set up as an individual? Is that something that is possible?
So I believe so. It can be.
To get real messy then?
Yes, it gets
Okay.
messy as far as paying those people out. So those people are more than likely going to have to be like a sub-agent.
Sub-agent, okay.
Versus, being able to decide how you pay that person out like a LOA. That's
Gotcha.
what they're called. So kind of looking at those aspects of like, it just gets trickier.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily impossible.
And for anyone who may not be familiar, the primary two differences we usually see when doing agency contracting with carriers is sub-agent or license-only agent. There's a lot of different benefits that work with both types of agents, whether it's business owning, how commissions are being paid. So if you're an agency owner looking to kind of take a look at setting up your own agency or bringing in downlines, it's definitely a conversation worth having about how you want to set up your agency.
Yeah.
I guess we have the text line, but neither of us have the phone number for the text line. So I'll just hide this real quick.
Oh, yeah. Olivia's not going to get those. But
You
also,
can still text
her.
Yeah, still just be like, oh my gosh, the studio's on fire. Maybe not that serious.
She might buy it.
She may come back because that's fair. But
sorry, go ahead.
No, you're totally fine. It's just a really interesting aspect that I think about consistently. A lot of agents, and you kind of touched on some really good points here. A lot of agency, you mentioned the startup cost is what leads them to become or start in this industry as an individual. And at one point or another, it makes sense to take the business that you've cultivated and shift it into a corporation because one, yes, taxes get easier. There actually may even be opportunities for you to get paid at a different level if you're set up as a corporation with multiple downline agents and depending on production. But, I mean, that's an aspect as well. So you could actually be getting paid more for the work that you're already doing. And then legacy building is a big thing that we talk about here at the office. Starting with the end in mind is kind of what we were referring to with legacy. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to an agent who has a daughter or a son or someone else in the family that is looking to kind of grab the reins when they're ready to step aside. And that is most easily done when you're set up as a corporation.
For sure.
So, and that's kind of something I think that we have set up to kind of discuss even further a little bit about what that's going to look like. But I think I see something coming in from Michelle here.
Yeah, Michelle made a good point. She said her tax person or accountant gave her a threshold of when she's making this much, she needs to set up an LLC from a tax perspective.
Interesting.
So that's a really good thing. If you've got that that accountant, that tax person, ask them their input of like, when does this make sense for me to shift?
Yeah.
I could throw a number of clients out there, but I'm not a numbers person. I've said this a bajillion times. I understand when I can see the feeling or the reason why after you show me the numbers, I'm in.
Yeah.
If you start telling me, well, if you get $3,000 and then you take that, I'm just like, yeah, okay.
And I'm a numbers person, but I don't know your guys' necessary personal situation. So between the two of us, we'll make you feel good and we'll give you a pat on the back and some finger guns, but we're not accountants. Yeah. So I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, talk to your tax person and say,
100%.
When does it make sense for me to stop taxing myself and start taxing that entity?
Yeah. And then, like, there comes into a whole big aspect that I know Will speaks on consistently with, like, his taxing for the agency webinar that he's done. I believe that's still on our YouTube. So the Senior Marketing Specialist YouTube channel, you can check out that. That's like tax tips for agency owners, I believe is the title of it. It goes through about a lot of different aspects that you can do as a business owner or an agency owner to kind of play that game of taxation a little bit, because I mean that's really what it is. It's all just a numbers game. Like,
I was talking about this the other day because this aggravates me.
Oh no,
the government knows how much money I owe them, but they won't tell me. I have to get it right or straight to jail.
Straight to jail.
It's like, just tell me how much I owe you, man.
Just send me an invoice and we'll call it good. I'll save money on having someone do it for me anyway. I've done my taxes once, and I'm a proud owner of a one-time. I did it myself. I did it via paper. I printed everything off. I did all the calculations, and I got it wrong. And it took an extra 9 months to get it all squared out. And it was because they lost a piece of the mail that I sent in. So it wasn't that I was wrong. It was the system who needed to have the things lost the things that I had sent them.
Okay.
So, hey, what is life, right? So
I tried to do mine once as well, and it was, so my mom did them for me forever.
Yeah.
I did them once, and then my wife has done it ever since. It is a glorious path. I don't have to worry about tax time.
I am just someone who yeah, I do this, but except that it comes with a lump of cash on top, and I go, please help, because I just would rather pay the extra money to then remove it from my brain.
Yep.
So I am the perfect client for an accountant, because I would rather give money
Just like,
to
here's
someone.
money.
Just make better, please.
So obviously, make taxes easier, because taxes, the worst.
Yeah, true. In fact, not only are taxes the worst, but sometimes figuring out the logistics of business is even worse. Beautiful segue.
Bring us home.
We talked about a lot of different aspects when it comes to corporation, especially with legacy, but also growth. I mean, those two are really the main keywords when it talks about whether to corp or not to corp, is really, do you see yourself growing? Do you want to leave what you've grown from the beginning off to someone else, and make sure that your clients that you did take care of for as long as you did aren't abandoned whenever you decide to step out of the industry? Because people, you will want to step out of this industry. You should be able to step out of this industry when it's your time, whether that's retirement or you hit the lottery, whatever it may be. There are so many different things that you should have the ability to step out whenever it's time. And part of that is buying businesses, selling your book of business, and then actually just passing along to family. And I'll kind of let you kind of mention some of that stuff. I know you've talked to many agents about that.
For sure. So when looking at like your corporation contracts, of one of the main benefits would be that being able to leave the industry is it's easier to sell your book of business. It's also easier to buy if you're in that growth mode and looking at other agents getting out of the business, be it because of compliance issues, they're ready to retire, whatever it might be. Having a corporation makes it easier for you to buy that book of business or sell yours at the end. This is mainly because of that next point, as the individuals contracts are tied to a person versus a specific entity. So I actually had Ben explain this to me again this morning, because my brain was a mess. I left my glasses, it was a whole thing.
This is the test. I'm testing if you listen to me this morning.
I did. Okay, here we go. So the first is like it being tied to a person that says that I, Clayton, am selling my business to Ben.
Yes.
Ben's like, great, I have a book of business. This is amazing.
Large sum of cash.
And the carrier says, cool. So the agent of record on this policy or the owner of this policy is Clayton. Ben calls in and says, hi, this is Ben.
I am Ben, not Clayton. I'd like to help my agents.
I'm carrier. No. Hang up.
Perfect.
Perfect. Click.
It's the carrier makes it so inconvenient, because in the eyes of the carrier, they have logistics and legal aspects that they have to, hold accountable. A lot of HIPAA information is stored behind that. And so no different when a different agent, has a client and maybe they're trying to come over to you. You can't service or help that client on their current policy because you're not the agent of record. If an individual is selling to another individual, the carrier only knows the individual who is servicing that client. There's no entity, there's no principal. Whether he sold me the business or not, they don't care. They have a responsibility that only Clayton can take care of these clients. And if I'm not Clayton, then they don't care about me, which hurts.
And sometimes you can move the agent of record around. You can get that transferred over and not worry about the commission aspect because you bought the business, so you're buying the that's the part that you bought essentially. Then you have to logistically go through and change you as the agent of record versus setting up as a corporation that says, ooh, here, Ben, flip us back. I am now business owner.
What's the name of your agency?
Agency A1
Steakhouse.
Yes. Agency A1 Steakhouse. And I'm selling my agency to Ben.
And I am now the proud owner of Agency A1 Steakhouse.
It's a great agency.
It smells really good.
Oh, yeah, it does. So now, Ben, call the carrier regarding one of your clients that are with Agency A1 Steakhouse.
Bling.
I'm going to wait a little bit. You have to, wait on hold.
Yeah, it is hold time.
Hello.
Hi, yes, I'd like to service one of my clients.
Who are you?
I am the principal of Agency A1 Steakhouse.
I shall help you.
Perfect, thank you.
And we both hang up on each other.
Now I get to hang up on the carrier.
So basically,
Yeah.
you get this. Is just the amount of ease of, because that policy was serviced or owned by Agency A1 Steakhouse, Ben is able to call because Ben is the principal of that agency. That just kind of goes with kind of some of the processes of shifting a book of business, which it can be a little bit tricky, but slide.
Yeah, a lot of this, I mean, it can be done. A lot of this is all about ease of access. Exactly how Clayton mentioned, a client who is being helped by an agency, the agency is what's tied to that client. And so heaven forbid if Clayton, fell down the stairs and had to be
very possible. I'm very clumsy.
Had to be, removed, wasn't able to service the clientele or the book of business any longer. Someone else can step in as principal and be able to take those reins significantly easier. And honestly, there's a lot of sad stories that come with a very similar instance that can happen. And if Clayton was set up as an individual, a lot of those clients are orphaned and not able to have someone step in until they're written with a new piece of business. So they can't have their current business serviced at all, and the commissions get forfeited traditionally to the carrier. So if his wife and his kid, who were living off of that income and those commissions and those renewals, now no longer have that accessible to them. And I'm hiding my face because it makes me very teary-eyed. So I will continue to hide behind this slide, but book of business transfers and stuff like that, this can happen. So, you've seen the benefit of corporations, the changes between individual and corp. And if you have questions, please continue to throw them in the chat. Clayton and I do cafe very differently, so we'd like to keep it lively and have these conversations. But if you are an individual right now and you're sitting there on your computer and you're thinking, hey, it might be time to have the conversation about what does it look like to switch to a corporation. Your business can be transferred to the corporation once that's set up. And there's it can be tricky. It takes your individual business and switches it over to the corporation. That way the corp or the agency owns your business, not just you as a person, which allows, again, at any given moment, someone can step in and lead the agency. It's not tied to a Clayton or a Ben. It's tied to A1 Steakhouse agency. So.
Agency A1 Steakhouse.
Yeah, my apologies.
Look, you just bought the business.
Yeah, I'm still learning.
But no, so we put on there, like, it's tricky because there's a lot of paperwork that goes is involved. There it is.
Yeah.
Is involved in this book of business process. So one of my favorite humans here, Kayla, helps out with agents as far as moving their book of business and helping them if they want to sell after the fact.
Yep.
So I've gotten the chance to sit with her a few times on some of these that we are moving individual contracts to corporation and moving the business with it, because part of it is just recontracting.
Yeah.
Got to go through a lot of contracting process. So there's all that paperwork. But then there's the paperwork of moving that individual business to that new corporation, Agency A1 Steakhouse.
Yeah, exactly. As a prime example.
So there's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of moving parts that go into that. So get help. Like I said, Kayla's one of my favorite humans, not only from just a personal standpoint, but also she's amazing at this, knows all the ins and outs. So if that's someone you want to reach out to with us, go for it. Ask your upline, do you have someone who can help me move my individual business to a corporation? Because you will want help to make sure it's done properly.
And I think, again, a lot of this is mentioned from things that we've seen.
Right.
I had mentioned that I had previously been, visiting with an agency, trying to get all the ducks in a row. And because they had previously, several years ago, gone through the loss of a parent, and their parent was a primary owner or servicer of the business that they were cultivating. And it was always been the dream of the parent to kind of pass it along to their child to continue the legacy and the promises that they had made to their clients. So it has taken probably 3+ years of carriers biting back, fighting back, a whole bunch of just weirdness with carriers, and the truth of the nature, and this is not exaggeration whatsoever, the child has even had to impersonate their deceased parent in order to service or help clients. That's not something anybody should do, let alone an agent trying to take care of somebody else.
Right.
So if you're in a position and you're like, well, I don't feel like this is going to affect me, I promise you it will at one point or another. It's better to be ahead of it than sitting on the heels of it all, trying to figure it out all while you don't know what's going on. So we're in a situation now where that agent is now, has had an agency this entire time, just wasn't set up or wasn't in a place to purchase. And honestly, the parent wasn't even in a place that had set themselves up in a position. So it's not always about whether or not if you're receiving, it's about what you're able to pass along or give away, or heaven forbid, if something were to happen, where does that go? Who does that go to? Because a lot of the clients that parent had been servicing were orphaned to the carrier and weren't able to be helped, and a lot of those renewals were lost as well. So this is a very serious aspect. I know we are some of the least serious people when it comes to the cafe, but
we talking about.
But this is just something that this not only affects your livelihood, it affects the people that you are trying to leave a legacy towards, and also just the promises you are trying to leave for the clients that you're taking care of. So I will be the serious person between the two of us if I have to be. I'm also an extremely emotional person. That's just how I am as a person. I try to get to know people. You guys have spent years getting to know your clients. You could tell us, so many things back and forth about their lives. You owe it to them as well to have them the opportunity to be serviced if something were to ever happen to you or whenever you're ready to step out of the industry.
And I love this topic for today because a lot of times on the cafe, we're talking to you as an agent. Yeah. Today, this is very much more of talking to you as a business owner.
Yeah.
Of not only are you out here selling policies, getting people taken care of, making all those promises, but then what do you do from your business aspect of all of this? How does this affect you long term? So I think our kind of main point got across of the corporate contracts at the end are for sure going to be the winning strategy, but it does make sense to be an individual for a certain period of time, be it your accountant telling you, and once you make X amount of dollars with this, then let's switch. So we don't want to say if you have individual contracts, you're wrong, because you're not. It's just make sure that you're looking at when you should get a corporation contract or what to do next.
You just haven't, you haven't gotten to the final stage just yet. Individual is a very, a stepping stone that you use to propel yourself to the final position. Ideally, what we believe in is a corporation because it just saves you a lot of different aspects. And
this is the way.
And yeah, exactly. This is the way. The corporation is the way to kind of answer a lot of the questions that we've outlined, offer you some insight on a lot of different aspects that we've talked about. So keeping your promise to clients, that's that legacy aspect. You've made promises to them. That way somebody else can step in and continue those promises.
Ooh, goofy time. And not threaten your tax person.
Yep.
Because taxes are frustrating. As we talked about, just tell me how much money I owe you, government, and I will pay you. So setting that up properly helps that part.
Yeah. And then retiring whenever you're ready.
I'll say that's kind of Ben's main thing that you want to talk about on here, I know, was you worked so hard. You did so much work that when you're ready to retire, which you should be able to.
Yes.
Retire.
Exactly.
Figure it out.
You owe yourself the fun and the reward that you work so hard for to give yourself. My dad's a self-owned business owner, is a veterinarian, and he continues to work every single day, 8 days a week, 25 hours a day. And I've seen what it can do to someone if they do work that hard for that long. Like when you go sledding and he tries to stop the sled with his leg and then it just rolls under the sled and then you have to jump in front of the sled to stop both of you from careening off. That's just like a weird example, hypothetical. Yeah, it never happened before. But you guys owe it to yourself. Love yourself a little. I know we're getting ready to head into a very busy time, which kind of wraps into Belinda's question here. Is it best to switch to a corporation before AEP? That is an excellent question. Now, it depends how much before AEP is really the kicker. We traditionally see, and you can kind of back me up on this, we traditionally see if you are starting from an individual and say you have all of your carriers, all of your books of business, you have all of the paperwork necessary. You then have to get contracted as your agency, which takes probably 3 to 4, sometimes even 5 weeks just to get the contracts ready. Then you have to have those individual contracts sometimes termed or canceled to be then moved under the agency, which can take insert X amount of weeks. The biggest one is traditionally the book of business move and transfer. All of that individual business to be moved to a corporation after the fact takes 8 months.
Yeah, it can take a while.
From start A to now I am an agency owner with all of my contracts set up correctly and all of my business set up correctly and assigned to the agency. It probably takes 8 months, probably closer to a year. And so would I suggest trying to do it now? No, I would wait till quarter one. You owe it yourself to focus only on AEP this year. And if that corporation conversation is something that you would like to have, Belinda, I would recommend either talking to your upline, talk to us, talk to somebody about what that's going to look like. Michelle brought up a good point. Talk to your accountant to see if you're, what that would look like for you moving forward. Right. I think we're a little too close for AEP to make that switch. And honestly, a lot of agents just don't know how long it takes. Right. I think I didn't even know, and that's one of our jobs until I started kind of sitting in on some of these meetings. That, hey, I just want to set the right expectations. This won't be done for a year. And I was like, a year? I was just flabbergasted. So
I'll say there's one carrier, I can't remember who it is, probably not important for me to yell at them anyway, but they won't even start to look at the book of business transfer paperwork for like 16 weeks or something crazy like that. Like, it was an absurd number that was like, before they even start looking at it. Yep. So I would definitely lean on what Ben was saying. Wait until quarter one. We see most of these happen in quarter two. Quarter one, people with that had a big AEP or were looking at like, okay, now I need to make sure my commissions are all taken care of. Yep. Usually that stuff will all wrap up in quarter one. So as soon as that does, then start looking at this as a conversation. Most time into quarter one, beginning quarter two is when we see the majority of this happening.
Yeah, it's a great time. And quarter one is also, outlining, making sure all your clients' policies went into effect. Right. As you mentioned, commissions were being paid correctly. So quarter one does fill up very quickly with some of the administrative work.
But that back half of quarter one, when we were getting into end of February, March, let's get going.
Right around Valentine's Day, just take yourself out, grab a bottle of wine, and start talking corporation. You owe it to yourself. So
take out a bottle of A1 Steakhouse steak sauce. No. For my agency.
We're going to get copyrighted.
Probably.
Sure.
We might.
Without a doubt.
This one might not make YouTube.
Well, okay. I'm going to have to talk to Olivia about this. Let's see here. Do you know a specific reason an agent would do an LLC over S Corp or vice versa? That's an excellent question, Brad. Truth of the nature, there are a slight, minute, I think, differences between the two. We have a really good resource on the website, smsteam.net. And then if you scroll down, one of the 4 panels is acquisition pathways. If you click on that, and then I believe it's outlined as agent resources. Resources maybe?
I think you're right. There's an agent guide and then there's resources.
Yes. And in one of those, it outlines some of the differences. I think it does lean on it maybe mentions a couple of bullet points. The main difference between S Corp and LLC, I'm not familiar with, if I'm honest with you, Brad. That's really an accounting question because I think it all comes down to how taxation works. And it probably has a really good reading of kind of where you're at money-wise, what makes sense.
I was leaning on you to answer this question, which is I was like,
We'll just lean on each other.
Just, hey, we don't know. But that is a great question for your tax person, your accountant, a lawyer, whoever it is helping you get that corporation set up.
Yeah.
Is kind of talk about your business, talk about that, let them guide you versus just a couple guys on the cafe.
I will say from personal experience, I have seen more LLCs than I have S Corps.
This is true.
But I don't know the reason why.
Yeah, just a trend we see.
Maybe it's people really like the word LLC.
That is a cool word. But also, me and Ben are very much on the camp of if we don't know, we're not going to lie and tell you something that we do know. So we'll very much be like, don't know. I know who to talk to about that, though.
Scorp.
Scorp.
Scorp sounds kind of cool, though, too. So it's definitely not just the words. So.
Yeah, it could be.
Well, I'll see if I can't do a little bit of research,
Right.
Brad, and then I'll shoot you a text or an email or something like that and see if we can find anything. Like I said, I think that's a really good conversation to have with an accountant or even the family member who is an accountant or in that financial space. That's probably a really good way to go about it. Speaking of...
Also a great referral partner.
True. Also very true. Mentioning some of the other resources or whatnot that we have, that Acquisition Pathways, if you're looking to buy or sell your business as well, has a lot of really good resources in on like, hey, how do I figure out what my book is worth? Or like, what things should I be thinking about if I'm thinking about acquiring or selling? The last thing you want to do is spend a bunch of money buying a book that you'll never be able to use.
Right.
That could be detrimental to anything that you're trying to do moving forward. So
I would say give us a call, reach out to your upline. If you're working with us already, for sure call us.
Yes, please.
Tell Clarissa, Summer, whoever answers the phone,
Lizzie,
yeah, some great humans that you would like to speak with Kayla about moving your business or what your agency should look like, and tell her Ben and Clayton sent you.
Tell them the cafe sent you. We get a kickback. Not actually.
We don't. We get lots of high fives.
We do, and messages to say thank you so much for talking about the thing I'm so passionate about.
So definitely holler at them. They can help you get that figured out. But that's all we got for you today.
More importantly, if you like our faces, consider joining the Facebook group. We can approve you without prior approval. We have that power.
We have the power.
We have that. That's the only power we have, but it's the power that we... I was going to say abuse, but that'll be read wrong. So join our Facebook group page.
It's a strong B-team power.
Cool. So if you have other questions or whatnot, it's also a really good spot for you to pose your question to other agents. That's why we created it. It's all about, there's a lot of groups out there that will maybe not always know 100% what's going on in the industry because it's impossible to know 100% what's going on in the agency. Right. And we got to lean on each other as agents, as FMO employees, whatever it may be, and kind of just use our experiences to kind of get through a lot of this stuff. And
we definitely promote a nice positive environment on that page, which is not always the case in some of these groups, as you might know. So AEP, I think during that last quarter, we get a lot of interaction because agents want to ask other agents questions.
Yes.
This is kind of our safe place to do it, a nice closed group where we're closely being like, okay, how can we make sure everyone's getting taken care of? I'm doing a lot of this.
I like what we're doing
getting
here.
Real close.
This is a real Olivia thing to do.
Dang it.
Yeah, I just want to let you know that. And then I did what you would do, and you would start copying.
I would copy and make fun of her.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly what.
You're welcome.
Thank you. But definitely check that out. As you guys know, any questions, you can always fire those over there. Check out the recordings of the past cafe content on there. And I don't know who's up next week. I don't know who's back. We'll see. TBD.
One of us, maybe.
One of us. One of Olivia or Carrie.
Or neither of us. The world's... How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop? The world may never
74.
know. Join us next week where we try to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop. One, two. Man, oh man.
All right.
Well, what a great time, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in with us. Hopefully you guys got something to take away as far as whether to corp or not to corp, whether there's nowhere to be a corporation than an individual. The long version of the name or who the heck is Bob? One of the two, book of business. But all in all, if you guys have questions, feel free to reach out to us, either Facebook or call the office, or you can check out any of the resources at smsteam.net. But until then,
have fun,
make money, and give impeccable service. Thanks so much, guys. Have a wonderful time.
See you guys.